welcome to this deep dive. You've shared some really insightful material with us, focusing on emotional well-being, particularly for autistic individuals.
That's right.
We're going to explore strategies for handling anxiety and stress, building up emotional regulation, self-esteem, and also how to support siblings and parents, too.
It's a whole ecosystem, really.
Exactly. Let's start with anxiety and stress. Your sources really hammer home that first step,
All right.
identifying triggers. We see the usual suspects, like sensory overload that makes intuitive sense, but also maybe less obvious things, like changes in routine, or even shifts in social interactions.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder, isn't it? What seems minor to us can be a huge source of anxiety for someone else.
Absolutely.
And your sources stress the need for really careful observation, watching the child's reactions, because sometimes those triggers, they're not immediately obvious.
Right.
And, research actually points to differences in sensory processing in the brain driving these sensitivities, hyper or hypo.
Ah, interesting.
Understanding that neurological side can maybe help us shift from just avoiding triggers to actively creating environments that support regulation, thinking about textures, calming visuals, that kind of thing.
That leads nicely into predictability. The material you shared really highlights the power of routines and schedules.
Definitely.
They mention visual aids, like calendars. For many of us, that's just organization, but for an autistic individual, it can be a real anchor.
A source of stability, exactly.
And communicating changes way in advance seems absolutely vital.
It is. Predictability offers the strong sense of safety, of control. If you think about anxiety generally, so much of it comes from uncertainty, right? Routines, visual schedules, they cut down that uncertainty massively. And that heads up about changes. It respects their need to prepare, to adjust.
Okay, let's talk social anxiety. That comes up too. Often it's framed around difficulties understanding unspoken social cues or navigating those unwritten rules.
Yeah, that's a common challenge.
And the sources mentioned teaching social skills, using social skills groups, even specialized tutors.
Right, and what's interesting is that link they make to future job prospects.
I noticed that too. It really underlines a practical long-term benefit.
It does. It shows these aren't just like abstract social skills. They have real-world impact on independence, quality of life.
Makes sense.
And the idea of tailoring the support groups, one-on-one tutoring, acknowledges that people learn social stuff differently.
Communication difficulties also get highlighted as a major anxiety driver.
Oh, absolutely.
Which, makes total sense. If you struggle to say what you need or really grasp what's going on, that's bound to cause frustration, anxiety.
For sure. And that's where things like visual aids and AAC devices, augmentative and alternative communication become so critical.
Right. Giving them other ways to communicate.
Exactly. It empowers them, directly reduces that frustration, and so lessens the anxiety. It's about finding what works best for that person. Picture systems, speech devices, whatever fits.
Yeah.
The goal is clear expression and understanding.
Then there's the whole piece on teaching relaxation techniques. Things like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation.
Enjoyable activities, too.
Right. The goal seems to be helping them develop their own self-calming tools, building that emotional self-regulation.
And what's really key in your sources is the emphasis on actively teaching these skills.
Not just suggesting them.
No, explicit instruction, chances to practice so they can eventually use them independently, that builds self-efficacy, that feeling of control over their emotions.
And the sources are really clear. One size fits all. Doesn't work here.
Not at all.
There's a real push for a tailored, flexible approach. Being willing to try things out, see what clicks for that individual.
That flexibility is just paramount. A strategy might work now, but need tweaking later as needs change. It means ongoing observation, keeping communication open.
And being ready to adapt.
Always.
Okay, moving on to promoting emotional regulation and coping strategies. Again, your sources say the first step is recognizing those triggers for dysregulation.
Spotting the patterns.
Really watching what happens before meltdowns or those really intense emotions. It's kind of like detective work, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And identifying those patterns is the foundation for figuring out how to help. You can see the overlap with anxiety triggers here, too. Often, an unmanaged anxiety trigger can definitely escalate into dysregulation.
The idea of a tranquil environment or a safe space at home really caught my eye.
A calm corner.
Described as somewhere they can go when distressed. Maybe with sensory aids. Weighted blankets, fidget toys, like a dedicated de-escalation zone.
It's about creating a refuge, yeah. a physical spot where they feel secure and can start to regulate. And including those sensory tools acknowledges how much sensory input matters, both in triggering and in calming.
Visual supports pop up again here. Emotion charts,
Mm.
specifically.
Yes.
The idea being they help the individual understand and communicate feelings better, which boosts self-awareness.
Absolutely. Being able to name what you're feeling,
Yeah.
that's such a huge first step to managing it.
Makes sense.
Emotional literacy, they call it. Recognizing, labeling, understanding emotions. Visuals make those abstract concepts more concrete, more accessible.
Then the sources talk about teaching specific coping mechanisms. Lots of options.
It's a whole toolkit.
Yeah. Deep breathing, sensory activities, shifting attention, even physical stuff like trampolines.
The variety is crucial. Different things work for different people or even for the same person at different times.
Yeah.
It's about exploring, finding what resonates.
Social storytelling gets mentioned as a really valuable tool
Mm-hmm.
for teaching appropriate responses, guiding through social situations, especially focusing on specific emotions. Crafting those narratives sounds really effective for preparation.
Social stories give that structure, that predictability for learning social expectations and emotional responses. And when you tailor them to specific situations, specific emotions...
It makes them more relevant.
Exactly. More relatable, easier to understand and actually use.
And finally, for emotional regulation, there's mindfulness and relaxation techniques, guided meditation, yoga, progressive muscle relaxation.
Right. Building that sense of calm, reducing overall anxiety.
It sounds like practicing these regularly helps build emotional resilience over time.
It does. Consistent practice can lower that baseline anxiety level and improve their ability to cope when stress does hit.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Building self-esteem, fostering a positive identity. Your sources really stress creating a nurturing, inclusive home environment.
Foundational. Absolutely critical.
One that acknowledges abilities, offers chances for growth.
That consistent support builds belonging, acceptance, which are essential for healthy self-esteem.
And a key point, recognizing and validating accomplishments, even small ones.
This is so important.
Plus, active listening, acknowledging emotions,
Yep.
powerful ways parents can nurture that positive self-image. It's about making them feel seen, heard, valued.
That validation is incredibly powerful. When a child's experiences, their feelings are consistently acknowledged, respected, it reinforces their self-worth deeply. And celebrating those small wins builds momentum, encourages more growth.
Developing self-advocacy skills also stood out in your sources.
Yes, teaching them to speak up for themselves.
Teaching them how to articulate their needs, preferences, limits. It's presented as a way to boost confidence, empowering them.
Self-advocacy really is a cornerstone of independence and self-esteem. When you can communicate your needs effectively, you feel more confident, more in control. That directly builds a stronger, more positive identity.
Right. And it's so important to remember, this isn't just about the autistic individual. It impacts siblings, the whole family.
Absolutely.
Your sources really underline needing open, transparent communication in the family about having a sibling with autism, creating that safe space for honest talk.
Vital for understanding and for preventing, resentment or isolation among siblings. Gives them a safe place to voice their own feelings, their concerns.
And active listening, showing empathy towards siblings is crucial too.
Definitely.
Acknowledging their challenges, making sure they get support. They're navigating a complex dynamic too.
Siblings often have a whole mix of emotions, right? It's so important to validate those feelings without judgment. Giving them dedicated attention, consistent support helps them feel seen and valued too.
Educating siblings about autism in an age-appropriate way is highlighted
Key step.
to foster understanding, patience, empathy, encouragement. Knowledge breaks down misconceptions, builds stronger bonds.
Exactly. Age-appropriate info helps them understand their siblings' differences, their needs, which leads to more empathy, better interactions.
Your sources also mention benefits if siblings participate in therapy sessions or activities sometimes.
Yeah, that can be really helpful.
Deepens their understanding, strengthens bonds through shared experience, collaborative learning.
Shared experiences can build that connection, that teamwork. Plus, it gives siblings a chance to learn coping strategies alongside their autistic sibling, understand their perspective better.
And prioritizing quality one-on-one time with each sibling. Strongly emphasized.
That's so important.
Makes them feel individually loved, valued, especially when maybe a lot of parental attention naturally goes elsewhere.
That dedicated time reinforces the unique bond with each child, reassures them they're a priority, keeps the family dynamic healthier, more balanced.
Finally, The value of support groups for siblings.
Yes.
A place to connect, share experiences, learn coping skills from others who really get it.
Peer support is incredibly valuable there. Connecting with others who have similar experiences reduces isolation, provides practical strategies learned firsthand.
Okay, now let's not forget the parents. There's a really important section on prioritizing self-care for them.
So crucial.
It acknowledges the unique challenges, the demands, and stresses the critical need for parents to look after their own mental and emotional health.
They're the foundation, aren't they? Their well-being directly impacts the whole family.
Seeking support is emphasized. Friends, family, professionals.
Don't go it alone.
And connecting with other parents in similar situations, support groups, online communities, that feeling of not being alone.
That sense of community, shared understanding, it's powerful. Sharing experiences, getting validation from people who truly understand the challenges helps manage stress, boosts well-being.
Carving out time for oneself is presented as a necessity, not a luxury.
Absolutely.
Even simple things, a walk, reading, to recharge, reduce tension.
Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential for long-term well-being, for being able to care effectively for everyone.
Effective stress management techniques, too. Journaling, exercise, mindfulness, meditation.
Finding healthy ways to manage stress is crucial. Prevents burnout, maintains resilience.
Maintaining a healthy work-life balance gets a mention, too. Setting clear expectations with employers, accommodating appointments.
Trying to create a sustainable rhythm.
Yeah, balancing work and family is tough anyway, but especially here. Advocating for what you need is part of self-care.
It is.
And finally, pursuing personal passions, interests. Remembering you're more than just a caregiver.
Maintaining that sense of self, doing things that bring joy, provides purpose, helps prevent burnout from the intensity of caregiving.
Your sources really bring it home. Prioritizing self-care isn't self-centered. It's fundamental to being resilient, effective.
Right.
And by doing it, parents model self-care, self-love for their kids too.
That's a powerful message. Taking care of yourself benefits you, yes, but it also sets such a positive example for your children about the value of well-being.
Okay, the sources also had that really practical numbered list and a bonus section. Lots of specific strategies for teaching emotional regulation.
Yeah, some concrete ideas there.
Emotion recognition first.
Uh-huh.
Helping the child identify, label, express emotions.
Yeah.
Using visual tools, emotion cards, charts.
Mirror games, too.
Right. Practicing facial expressions. And daily check-ins, connecting feelings to body sensations.
These are great multisensory approaches, making abstract emotions more tangible. And that emotion-body sensation link is really insightful, helps them spot internal cues.
Next up, modeling coping strategies.
Showing, not just telling.
Exactly. Teaching calming tools they can eventually use themselves. Demonstrating deep breathing, simple yoga, even when things are calm, and creating a personalized coping toolbox. Fidgets, timers, things they can choose when upset.
Modeling is so powerful. Kids learn by watching. So consistently, showing healthy coping gives a clear example. And the toolbox offers choices for different needs.
Social stories again, but with specific advice. Tailor them to emotions, triggers, repetitive reading. Pair with role-play, digital versions.
Making it concrete, interactive, relevant.
Yeah, that customization is key, isn't it? Makes the stories more impactful. Repeated reading builds those internal scripts. Role-play digital stuff makes it more engaging.
Definitely.
Creating a safe space is another practical one. Designing a calm corner together.
Giving them ownership.
Introducing it during calm times. Teaching how to ask for a break, maybe using break cards.
Right, empowering them to recognize their own needs.
And crucially, respecting that space. It's for self-regulation, not punishment.
So important. That keeps it a truly safe refuge.
Finally, those general parenting tips in the bonus section. Kind of tie it all together.
The overarching principles.
Consistency across routines, settings, positive reinforcement for small steps, patience, empathy, focusing on effort, not just outcome.
And collaborating with teachers, therapists, a unified approach.
Absolutely essential. Creates that predictable, supportive environment for growth. Positive reinforcement encourages using those new coping skills, and collaboration ensures everyone's on the same page.
So bringing it all together, nurturing emotional well-being for autistic individuals, supporting their families, it really is this multifaceted thing.
Interconnected.
Yeah, understanding triggers,
Yeah.
teaching coping skills, building self-esteem, and prioritizing everyone's well-being, the individual, parents, siblings.
Exactly. A holistic approach. Considering the individual within their whole support system. It's a journey, isn't it? Learning, adapting, celebrating
It
progress.
really makes you think. Which strategies might resonate most in your own situation? Maybe starting with a safe space feels right, or maybe those emotion charts.
Yeah.
It's definitely food for thought, how even implementing one or two ideas might start to make a difference. Absolutely, and like you said, this deep dive, it's really just scratching the surface. There's always more to learn, more to explore here. What, for you, kind of stands out as maybe one of the most compelling threads we've pulled on today?
Hmm. For me, I think it's that fundamental emphasis on actively teaching things rather than just reacting.
Yeah. Proactive versus reactive.
Exactly. Proactively equipping individuals with the tools, the understanding they need to navigate their own emotional world. That feels incredibly empowering and probably more effective long term.
That's a crucial takeaway, I agree. Empowerment through knowledge, through practical skills, it's central to well-being, to independence, and definitely a journey worth continuing.